Many years ago, a friend of mine visited London and was explaining to me how they just paid directly with their credit card when taking transit. At the time, I remember my mind being blown away. I was thinking, that's so genius. Why couldn't we do this? Why couldn't we just pay directly with a credit card at the turnstile? No more tickets, no more getting in line for the MetroCard machine, just straight up no more inconvenience. And today we do have something like that in New York. However, we've only had this for the last 4 years, whereas London has had this for a little over a decade now. So why is that? Why have we not been using this technology ages ago? To talk about this, we have to cover the history of the payment system in New York City and some interesting facts on credit card technology. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video, the history of transit payment and why we're so far behind in payment technology. My name is Thea and you're watching Urban Caffeine. And since we're on the topic of history, the recent show I've been watching is History, the Interesting Bits. It's an interesting take on how-tos by using history as examples, like how to get away as a con artist, how to be a spy, or perhaps how to start a war. This is just one series of hundreds of award-winning and original documentary films on CuriosityStream that you cannot find anywhere else. And if you're not into history, there really is something for everyone on CuriosityStream. Whether you like technology, nature, and if you love to learn, there are even courses you can take. For me, since I'm on YouTube, I've been watching the course on film production.
Hello there.
CuriosityStream also has new content every single week. And it's very budget friendly. Plans start at under $5 a month, and they have the option for a monthly or annual subscription. Plus, their platform is available on multiple devices, which makes it easy to watch your favorite shows anytime, anywhere. Go to curiositystream.com/urbancaffeine or scan the QR code for unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and non-fiction series. And for our fans, use promo code UrbanCaffeine and you will save 25% off on annual subscriptions. So click the link below or go to curiositystream.com/urbancaffeine and save 25% right now. Thank you, CuriosityStream, for sponsoring today's video. A system where you can pay directly with cash or credit card is called an open loop system. It's open because your payment method is not locked into just the transit system. Examples are New York's OMNY, taxi cabs, and those dollar vans that operate in different neighborhoods of New York. And come to think about it, we have yet to talk about the dollar vans in New York City, and that could be an interesting topic in a future video. And while we have an open loop system, a closed loop one is where you have to buy into the system by purchasing a ticket, token, or pass. Basically, a payment method that locks you in. Examples would be the MetroCard or a paper train ticket to the Long Island Railroad. OMNY in New York is not one or the other, it's both. You can pay directly with a debit or credit card or pay with an OMNY card. Systems like OMNY need both because not everyone has a debit or credit card, so they'll need to convert their cash into something that's usable on these machines. It sounds so stupid simple. It sounds like a no-brainer. Why not use a debit or credit card directly on a machine? But in the 100-year-long history of the New York subway, we've only been using this technology for the last 4 years. Why is that? This leads us to the next chapter. When the subway first started its operation, people needed to buy a paper ticket from a booth, then walk their ticket to an attendant who tore it up, and then they were able to ride the subway. And of course, there were some problems with this system. One problem is that sometimes people lost their ticket, or their ticket would fly away because of the wind created by the trains in the tunnels. And another problem was that the attendant tearing up the ticket could easily let people in without paying. This human element to this paper ticket system was a vulnerability that was hard to police. But these problems were resolved 16 years later when we had turnstiles. At the time, fare was 5 cents, or a nickel. So turnstiles were designed so that people could just drop a nickel and enter through. We no longer needed paper tickets, nor attendants. When the fare eventually increased from 5 cents to 10 cents, The turnstiles were adjusted to accept dimes instead of nickels. And during this time, I could imagine the problem that people often ran into is whether they had a dime or a nickel on them. But I could imagine the convenience, not having to line up to get a ticket and just going straight to a turnstile and dropping your nickel or dime. This was old school open loop right here. But the fare eventually went up to 15 cents. This was a problem because there was no 15-cent coin. 15 cents would have had to be a combination of either 3 nickels or nickel and dime. So in comes the token, and thus bringing us back to a closed-loop system. What was great about the token is that the transit authority didn't have to constantly change the turnstiles every time the fare went up. They just had to change how much to charge for the tokens. And the token went through different designs over the years. The evolution of the design of the token was more of a fraud prevention thing. People were constantly making fake tokens, something that would fool the machine and let them go through. These were called slugs. And if you ever visit the Transit Museum in Brooklyn, they have a whole display of all the different slugs that has been collected. And there's a lot of creative ones. People made them from bottle caps, from buttons, and all sorts of different things. So we used the token until 2003 because in the 90s, we entered the MetroCard era. So why did we switch from token to MetroCard? Here are 5 reasons. In the 1990s, we've entered the computer age. And the MetroCard allowed the agency to monitor the exact times commuters rode the subways and buses. This was important in order to manage and organize transit operations. This data helped figure things out like which train stations need to cater to more people or which bus routes needed more buses. Second, the MetroCard allowed for flexible fares like unlimited rides and student discounts. With a token system, you couldn't really have a good way to implement unlimited rides. Or did they? If you were around during the token era, what kind of discounts were available? Were there discounts for seniors, students, and those with disabilities? I'm curious. Comment down below. And the ability to grant unlimited rides gave riders economic savings in the long run. Not only that, but it incentivizes people to keep using public transit. And people using public transit is a good thing. It's better for the environment and it helps with congestion on the streets and roads. And lastly, MetroCards were way user-friendly. Do you know how heavy coins are? I used to do coin laundry and those machines would only accept quarters, and my laundry for the week would probably cost anywhere from $5 to $7. Do you know how heavy $7 worth of quarters is? It's very heavy. I would take a MetroCard over a purse full of coins any day. And not only do you save yourself from carrying a purse full of coins or tokens, but it's claimed that swiping a MetroCard is a lot faster when you're dealing with a big bulk of commuters. I don't know how true that is, but it's a claim. And you might be thinking, why didn't we just skip the MetroCard altogether and go straight to card payment? I had this question too, not just with New York City Transit, but transit all over the United States. Why did these transit agencies implement transit cards rather than straight up accept credit or debit cards from the get-go? And this is the point where we have to talk about card technology. When you use a card with a magnetic stripe, you have to swipe at the terminal. Then the terminal would read the card information, then talk to your bank over the internet. Your bank will have to authenticate you, then authorize the transaction. Then send a message back to the terminal saying the transaction is good to go. This process takes about a couple seconds, maybe 5 seconds if the internet is shoddy. If you still swipe with a credit card, next time you use it, notice how the machine kinda gives you the wait signal for a little bit before saying transaction approved. Unlike when you tap to pay, whether by card or phone, it's instantly approved. A couple seconds to wait for your transaction to be approved is really not a big deal if you're dining at a restaurant or paying for groceries. But in the realm of transit, when you're trying to get thousands of people through the gate during rush hour, A couple seconds per person is way too long. Transactions at that turnstile need to be in a split second. So over time, payment technology got better. And with a true tap and pay card, also known as NFC, transactions are approved in a split second, which is perfect for places that need to process hundreds, if not thousands of people at a time, like a subway. As a caveat, I am not an embedded systems engineer or whatever profession that can explain the fine differences between the NFC, which is the tap and pay, and the magnetic stripe. But what's important to know is that these communicate differently. One can approve a transaction within a split second, and the other needs a couple seconds, maybe more. But this NFC technology that can have lightning speed approval on transactions is not new. It's been around since the 2000s. So London has been able to have this open loop payment system that accepts debit or credit card directly for over a decade now. What about New York? The problem was US banking. Banks in the US aren't exactly known to be early adopters of the latest technology. Because the magnetic stripe worked and it did the job, and it's expensive and resource intensive to change the payment method of their whole clientele, it became one of those cases where if it ain't broken, why fix it? So the US continued to just use the magnetic stripe technology. But it turns out that the technology behind NFC is better at deterring fraud. And since all these other countries were using NFCs on their cards, the US became low-hanging fruit for fraudsters. And all those that would normally attack the credit card holders in other countries just focused their attention on the US market. And that's when the banks were finally like, maybe we should switch transaction approval methods. In the last handful of years, and you're probably in the same boat, I've noticed that banks have slowly changed out all my cards, both debit and credit card, to have that NFC capability. So whenever I am at a restaurant or anywhere where I need to spend money, I just tap and pay now. So the short of it all is during the 90s, early aughts, when we needed to switch from the token to a computerized transaction system on public transit, the card technology needed for an open loop system was not widely adapted in the United States. It existed, but it wasn't widely used. So transit systems across the United States had to rely on something that they could control, something that they can control the speed on how fast transactions are made at the turnstiles, which are transit passes. But today we have OMNY. I've said this before, the rollout of OMNY has been very, very slow, but I think we're headed in the right direction. My dream is for a world where tickets and passes are optional. And I would love to drop into any city, hop on the bus, and pay directly with a credit card. Not have to think about where to buy a ticket, how to buy a ticket, what type of ticket to get. All I have to think about is the bus costs $2, here's my credit card, and off I go. And before I wrap it up, if you're looking for high quality merch that displays your love of cities and transit, make sure to check out the Urban Caffeine shop. These are all original designs by me that you won't find anywhere else. I just opened the shop and it really did take me a while to look for quality products and reputable vendors because I do want you to enjoy your merch for many years to come. Patreon and YouTube members will always get 15% off. Just look for your coupon code in our community channels. And if you are not a member, you can enjoy 10% off this month. Just use the code OpenSesame. So check out the store at shop.urbancaffeine.com or the link in the description. And I would love to see you rock your merch. So if you're using it, make sure to tag Urban Caffeine on Instagram. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for being here. And until the next video, happy New Yorking.